Hi, unequip my trousers to show you the Dickies 874 pant versus the Red Kap industrial cargo pant. And while these might not be the most best respective product to compare for each one, just because the Dickies is more of like a casual fit, business-ish casual, probably too dirty word for that even. But and then the Kap Red Kap is more of just like a shop pant, a very loose pant. But I'll go more into that into this video. For now, I just think that they are probably the most popular product for each one. The most reviews you'll see for the Kap here on, there's a website, like an automotive website, that has a lot of reviews for this one, as well as Amazon and Red Kap, and then Dickies has like thousands of reviews on the 874. So popular model for both, even though the fit is a little bit different. So I've owned both of these pants now for about 5, maybe going on 6 months. I've worn the Dickies about 10 times the amount though, so probably about 90% of the time, 90% of those days, I've been using the Dickies. So, but first, let's just go over the TLDC, that, like, you didn't care section. And we'll start with price. The Red Kap I've usually seen about 25 bucks, so it's usually a few bucks more than Dickies. Dickies I'll usually find at Walmart for about $21, $22, $23. For some reason, I see Dickies in certain stores for like 40 to 60 bucks, and I'm not particularly sure why. I've seen Dickies at Walmart. I've seen them at Sears. I've seen them at, where else? Target. Target doesn't have a huge selection. Sears is kind of a rip because I don't see many of their stores anymore. Walmart. The problem with Walmart is Walmart's got they've got something called Dickies Genuine, which is what I would consider, in my opinion, off-brand Dickies. Basically, they're the cheap label, is what my opinion. Walmart tends to do this with some of their other products. Like you'll see, there will be like Levi's Original or something, and that's the El Cheapo version that they're sort of discounting to bulk sale at Walmart. I have, ironically, the 874 is the only Dickies I have seen at Walmart that was not, what would be the right word, the not genuine Dickies, but it's the 874 Flex, which I've seen worse reviews for the Flex version of the Dickies. Yeah, so basically, I typically don't trust Flex products for something that I'm hoping is going to last many years. And that's just something that's worth noting. You're already getting a pretty loose fit with the 874, and I feel like the 874 is about as baggy as a pant you'd want, or as trim as a pant you'd want, with still plenty of flexibility. So your mileage might vary. I don't like the Flex version, and I don't particularly recommend it. I don't think it lasts as long when you add Lycra and spandex to a product such as that. So that's something to know with the price. Dickies are a little bit cheaper. Red Kap's a little bit more expensive. You'll probably see why in a minute here, though. But so the next part 2 is pockets. Before I forget this, because I never use my back pockets, because I back alignment, especially with wallets. Both ones have one button, one loose back pocket. Same deal there. One button, one loose. Okay. So for the inside pockets, though, I will say the Red Kap gets the win here. The pockets are wider. They're about an inch or two longer as well. I don't feel as comfortable putting things in the Dickies, especially like, I don't know, if I'm bending over or taking them off at the end of the day. It's just a little bit too narrow. One thing we'll go into with the design as well is that the Dickies is a much more tight fit, especially at the thigh. It's more of like a straight leg, if I forget that. So there's a lot more room here to just shove shit in. Sorry for the language. Whereas the Dickies is less. So something that's worth noting, I can usually only get like a depth of a hand in something like the Dickies. So the Red Kap also comes with cargo pants. I don't particularly use these, but that's just something to know. Both products, they sell like a bajillion different variations of their models. So I know Dickies has Different pocket forms of pants. I know they have ones with cargo pockets, cell phone pockets, etc. You get the point. So Red Kap wins on the pockets game, at least for these two most popular models. Red Kap's just a little bit, has more depth. I'm a little bit more comfortable. Pocket material, I feel like it's about the same thickness, though, so I'm not particularly concerned. It's like a 3 out of 5 pocket thickness, so I'm not too concerned about them breaking with use, at least initially. Okay, moving to the next point, the zipper. We'll start with the button here. Obviously, the biggest difference, once again, you can buy Dickies with buttons. You can buy Dickies with like this clasp. Basically, this slides into this little clasp here. You see this a lot with dress pants. I prefer the clasp. I know people that don't prefer it. To me, it's quicker. And I've had more problems with buttons coming loose and poor stitching, especially when you're talking about an economical product such as this. So I prefer the clasp, but some people don't because it comes loose without them doing that. I've never had that happen. It obviously comes loose in this case really easy because there's no weight pushing it forward. And I guess I should throw a quick point here with the design. With Dickies, I tend to go about 1 to 2 inches wider. One reason, it's typically just recommended to size up with Dickies, just because you're not getting the flex there. So it's better to get a little bit more breathing room in the stomach here. Plus, you can use a belt to cinch it if you need to. I don't use a belt, but what was I going to say? So I have not had a problem with the clasp. Some people don't like it. Your mileage might vary. What should I say about it? So yes, typically size up with Dickies just because it's a more loose pant fit. I don't know. That's just my thought there. So let's move on to zippers. If I remember anything about the clasp, I will. Dickies zipper is an off-brand. It just says Dickies in the front of it in very small label, so it's not necessarily a brand name. I'll say immediately that the zipper on the Dickies is worse than the Red Kap. So, like the pockets, the Dickies sort of gets or the Red Kap gets the win here. The pocket here for the Red Kap is YKK. I've not had an issue with it. I haven't really had an issue with the Dickies either, but I can tell there's a little bit more snag. The teeth are a little bit more aligned. Sometimes I'll get a problem here, like when it's about 3/4 the way up. It's not really a problem. It's just a little bit more of like a what's the correct word? More of a rugged zip. It probably isn't something that you're looking for though in that situation. By the way, with the pocket here, the belt loops, these are a little bit longer. I don't think these are necessarily 2 inches. It's about 1 3/4. The Dickies, which has the wider belt loop, is about a little over 1.5 inches. So I'm going to guess there's going to be a little bit more slack here, but you might like this more tunnel loop design. I think that about covers it for the zip. Once again, Red Kap gets the win there with the YKK zip. But to sum up the clasp thing, I think if you get the right fit, I don't get an issue with the clasp. It doesn't come loose with me unless I want it to. So that just might be a sizing issue for some people, either ordering it too tight or too wide. You're not going to win the, Mr. America wearing a pair of Dickies or Red Kap anyways. So let's move on to fabric. Both of them use, and this is why I do this comparison, both of them have a 65% polyester, 35% cotton mix. They're both a twill. There's many other pant companies that use this same blend, and so I would consider it like a winning combination, but I'll go into that more at the end. I think it's also why there's a lot of durability with them. I know people that had Dickies for like 5 to 10 years. But basically, the fabric, I will say, on the Dickies versus the Red Kap is better. Red Kap for this model, the for fuck's sake, what is the model name? Sorry for the language. The Dungaree industrial pant is, it is a 7.5 ounce. The Dickies is an 8.5 ounce. I've known Dickies that have 7.5 ounce, and I've known Red Kap that have 8.5 ounce, just so you know. But these come in really like crisp feeling, like really starchy, like you might see with like a military pants, but 1 or 2 washes and they break in pretty quickly. So what should I say there? Basically, to me, it still feels pretty rugged. Overall, though, this is a much looser feeling pair of trousers. You might prefer that, especially if you're like looking for a dressy type of trouser. To me, it just feels cheaper, though. I will say that I've worn this 1/10 the time, and I've gotten significantly more pilling. It's much smoother. It might be softer, so again, your mileage might prefer that, but this pair of pants has had more pilling than the Dickies have, and 1/10 of the time. I have minor pilling here and there on the Dickies, but it's nothing that I would consider significant. So here, my preference is 8.5 ounce or more. I'll go in at the end because there's only a few models that Dickie and Red Kap offers with 8.5 or above, but that's just my thoughts. I do prefer this fabric to a cotton, though. I'll go into that later, but just because the Dickies, if you're buying like a pair of jeans, you're usually buying like 12 to 15 ounces. If, in my opinion, you want to match the durability of the others. So that's just my thought. I prefer that synthetic blend. Okay, on to fit. Once again, the Dickies here has more of a straight leg fit. It's going to be tight to some people in the thigh, whereas these are much more loose, in the leg. And because of the smaller fabric to the Red Kap, or the lighter fabric, I have an easier time cuffing the Dickies. The Dickies holds its what they consider the permanent front pleat better. So as you can see there, it does hold pretty well, even after owning it all these months. I would consider, in my lack of fashionable tastes, I prefer the Dickies. This, to me, feels like SWAT LARP, with how loose it is and, the navy color. So that's just my thought on the fit. But I would say Dickies also has their other, I would consider second most popular pant is the loose fit double knee work pant. I'll show you a picture at the end. I typically in winter will wear like a leggings, and then I'll wear a pair of trousers over. Twill usually does a pretty good job at blocking out the elements. So if you're going in like the clothing theory where like the middle or base layer is for insulation, and the outer layers to combat the elements and deal with perspiration, etc. I consider the 874 or like a wider trouser is what you're going to want to have an inner layer or a base layer of trouser without having flexibility in the outer layer, spandex or lycra or whatever. So I will say, though, again, the shop pant or something like this is a little bit more flexible with this as an outer pant and a pair of leggings underneath. So this pair, though, I would give the Dickies the win in terms of like the fit. I know some people, I guess I should say with the Dickies, as you can see here, the rise I think is it's almost about 12 inches. So some people would consider this a high rise. I don't. I don't like the way fashion is right now, or it's been for the past 10 years, where it's been, a witch hunt for all high-rise trousers because everybody likes to wear theirs at their hips. But just for your information, you have like a jean waist, you have a mid-rise, I would say, and then you have like a high-rise. Sorry about the crack. But basically, most trousers in the past 10 years have gone lower to like a jean waist. It's basically where it hugs your hips. This would be the Red Kap is more of your mid-rise. Basically, as you can see, if I hold it out straight, it drops down just a little bit here, so it can hug underneath your belly, your keg or gut. And then a high rise is meant to fit around your natural waist, which is usually your belly button. So I prefer this. It's more of like a straight fit there across the line. This pair here will lower around. I think your average person at the moment is going to prefer mid-rise. I prefer a natural waist or high rise. So again, just a slightly lower fit. You can tell based on the length of the zipper here as well compared to the Dickie here. It's a much longer zipper. I think Red Kap has higher rise trousers. I've actually been looking. I will try others. I have a bit of an underdog thing for Red Kap and preferring them just because Dickies has some problems I'll go into in the next segment here. So fit, yep, there you go. High rise, mid rise. I do wish they had some like a little bit above the high rise, but that's theory, so I'm not going to go into that. So one other thing I guess I have to say is because this is a looser fit, I think you're going to have less, more junk freedom. One criticism I have seen of the Dickies is it can kind of combat your crotch. Basically, what's a politically correct word here? Your two roundies are going to sort of might get crunched up in the front here. It's more of like a forward fit across your stomach to your gut to your crotch, basically. Whereas these ones might have more of like a roundness to them just because there's more room here between the zipper and the bottom. Basically, they both allow a significant amount of flexibility. I actually really like the design as well because I've noticed a lot of jeans when they go with these lower waists here that they have to use like a gusseted bottom just because to allow that freedom of movement. For whatever reason, this seems to isolate the hips to above, basically from the legs below, so that you have that freedom without feeling all gunked up. And the truth is, when you buy smaller pants, when you buy more tight-fitting clothing, you're sort of gonna be compacting the trousers. You know, it's the same thing like if you downsize on a pair of footwear, you're talking about then a harder break-in, something that's going to be more damaging to your foot, and something that's going to wear faster because you're causing more friction because it's more tight-fitting. Is one reason to get these sort of like a wider type of trouser, but it also gives you a little bit more flexibility without combating the pants. And if you're like me and you want something to last as long as possible, that's also nice. Again, this is something for both of these trousers. And so on to the last section, which would be consistency between the product. And this is where Dickies gets its biggest hit. The Dickies, I have had a pair of 874s, and I've seen pairs made in Nicaragua, Honduras, and Mexico. I have only seen Red Kap trousers made in Mexico. So it already tells you that all the hints you might want at the moment on how long you think the consistency between the products is going to be. Even though I prefer the material in the Dickies for what I've got, including the Honduras. I will also say, though, that the Honduras Dickies feels lower quality than the other two. I have not gotten a Mexican-made pair of Dickies, but I've gotten Nicaragua, and it feels significantly more, I don't know, thick. The material feels more thick than the Honduras one. So this is probably the biggest problem I've seen with Dickies in terms of sizing and consistency, that there is a vast quality difference. I've seen more problems where people are getting Dickies that are like have a leg that's like an inch too short. And I'm sure it's lost Dickies a significant amount of customers over the years as well. I think they've been somewhat vacant to the response of the quality control in their products. I believe both used to be made in the USA, but both have moved on to separate shores. So once again, I think Red Kap there wins the consistency contest. If you want my opinion, though, overall, I still prefer the Dickies. I prefer the design. I like the clasp here. I like that Dickies is just stuck to what's worked. I'm not saying I really don't have enough experience with that Red Kap to make a claim on whether it's worked or not, but I do like when a company just sticks to a design because it works and they don't feel like following trends or sticking to what does work. Even though the quality control is better with the Dickies, again, I don't like the design of the Red Kap. I've had more like loose strands here in the Red Kap as well, for whatever reason, just loose threads. I wouldn't really consider it a quality control problem, like right there, right there, right there. But, some people might be curious about that. One thing I will give a knock to Dickies, though, as well, there's a small amount of pilling at the end of that pocket there. is once again with the Honduras thing is I've had a lot more because it's tighter at the thigh. I've had a lot more where the seams are sort of pulling apart there. Can I get that? Yeah, so I haven't had a problem where it's like I feel like it's loosening, but I've seen that in a lot of the thigh as well. Again, this is even with me sizing like 1 or 2 inches above what my waist measurement is, my natural waist. That's just one knock to the Dickies and the quality control. If I had too many pairs that were falling apart within, a certain amount of months, I would definitely want to move to Red Kap. And that's also why I have a bit of a preference or an underdog complex to Red Kap, just because I would rather stick to something that works and sticks to what works as opposed to something that's inconsistent. And once again, I think that's where Dickies has lost the most customers. It probably might even be why you're watching this review, to compare your Dickies that are no longer what they used to be to something else that might be out there. But once again, I still prefer my Dickies at the moment. I wish Red Kap had more of an 874 type pant. But okay, so moving on to more of like the theoretical section. This is the boring part that you might not want to check out. But once again, both share a design of 65% polyester, 35% cotton. Previously, I have found blends of natural and synthetic fibers to be a success. They tend to contain the better parts of like natural and synthetic fibers, in other words. For natural, though, like it'll keep out the funk. It'll still look more natural and not like have a weird sheen to them. And it prevents more static fiber magnetism that you might see. Like if you have like 100% fleece item, you tend to get a lot of like lint or cat hair, dog hair that will attach to it. This one, for both these pants, I've seen a moderate amount, but nothing like I would see in fleece, for example, where it looks like the cat hair is trying to become one with the fiber. Like it's like if you got it's like this like bare fleece that's constantly adding fiber to it. So as for synthetics, it helps keep the pleat, as you can see with the Dickies I had. It has the increased durability, and the reason I say that is because cotton can only be such a long fiber. That's why a lot of people value like Egyptian cotton, because it's one of the longer fiber strands. Basically a pill is when the fiber sort of comes loose and bunches up into a ball because it's been held tight, and so like hair, like if you're making a curly hair, it comes together when it forms a pill. So the thing with synthetic, though, is obviously you can make it as big of a strand as you want. So that's one of the advantages to synthetics. It usually less pilling because of the length and thus the increased durability. And with synthetics, it also tends to weigh less, and that's kind of what I was showing you. Like if you buy canvas, 100% cotton canvas or jean pants, which is funny because jeans are canvas, but I think they're canvas. I might be a 12, but regardless, you don't need it to be like a 15-ounce pair of pants that might last a couple years, essentially. So a good example of an alternative blend I've seen is Nyko nylon cotton, which is a 50-50 nylon cotton blend that was used in the M65 jacket for the U.S. Army. Yeah, and I've known people that say that the M65 was too heavy and the design might be more Luddite to new tech that's more synthetic blending. But you're also talking about something that's less smelly, like synthetic fabrics tend to be. It's also like less durable than a lot of synthetic fabrics I've seen, though, too, and more flammable. So, a lot of tech wear, a lot of synthetic wear that you'll see at REI now, it doesn't have the same durability. You're going to see something like this. You're paying for technology, you're paying more money. And then with 100% synthetic fibers, you're also talking about something that's much more flammable, like you would see with polypropylene. So again, it serves a function to its respective durability, and you're not going to war with a pair of Dickies. So, but you can LARP it. You can LARP it with your SWAT light blend. So the blend has persisted to those uninterested in their career fields that continue to promote these products by wearing them, such as automotive worker painters. I've seen a lot of skating people wear Dickies. This one, the Red Kap, I see more popular in automotive. And speaking of which, I don't usually see Red Kap in the store, so you typically have to buy them online. So whether they care about their product, though, or not. Carhartt, I've seen, has a pair in this blend. 65% polyester, 35% cotton. I've seen Big Ben in Canada does as well, though it might actually be a Red Kap rebrand. I've seen Big Ben do it before. I have a pair of wool Codette pants. These are previously made in Vermont, although this pair says it's made in Canada. These big, burly 28-ounce wool pants that cost like $100, much cheaper than Filson. But basically, I'm not sure if the Big Ben is just a Red Kap product because it says it's made in the USA. And I've seen, I think, one other Big Ben product that was Red Kap. So moving on, I've seen TrueSpec 511 basically did the blend. Then, of course, you have the Red Kap and Dickies, of course. So once again, you have this product that, unbeknownst to many, is used by many other manufacturers. So once again, Dickies has the better design, sticks to what's worked. There is a lot of inconsistency because it's made in Nicaragua, Mexico, and Honduras, and the quality control necessarily isn't there. Even though I hope Dickie sees the videos or reads the reviews and can correct that. Red Kap, though, I've shown to be more consistent, made in Mexico, which, in my opinion, is a little bit above at least the living standards than some of the other countries mentioned, specifically Honduras. The designs, though, in my opinion, with Red Kap are worse, like a higher rise and a little bit more fit. And even still, I prefer the shop pant that I'll show you at the end here for the Dickies compared to the wider fit that you're going to see with Red Kap. I don't like the thinner fabric on these. And the designs, especially for the Red Kap, screams, this is what I wear to work, but I change when I'm going to a date. You know, if dad clothes exist or, you know, mom jeans and stuff, this is the granddad or maybe great-grandpa or, you know, within a dead generation or two in terms of style. So, but once again, the Red Kap has better pockets. So how can you knock that down? Because that's what most men want. So philosophy, I feel like of the companies, though, is that they've been around for both of them 100 years. So, but I feel like I've messaged both the customer service with some of my own ideas, and I almost feel like with the amount of products both of these companies have, it's like throw enough shit at the wall and see what sticks. Because the catalog, when you look at the products, is sort of bloated. You'll see like the flex fabric, you'll see the cell phone pockets and all these other things, which is like, yeah, you know, these products have been around enough. Haven't you tested enough people whether they like them or not? And plus, with a lot of smartphone pockets, the smartphone's changing so much that people aren't necessarily, they aren't going to fit the old style, and you know, they might fall apart. You might not trust them if they're hanging so low. I don't know. I just feel like the company should stick to more what works. They could have, you know, again, 25 to 50% of things that their style are trying out, but I don't like when these companies are just chasing style and don't necessarily know who their customer is. So once again, I emailed both companies with an idea that they should make a pair of overalls, and I sort of got the customer service response. Both of them sell overalls, as far as I'm aware, but they're both the 100% cotton version, which is, you know, the much heavier sort of fabric that they have to use. The only pair of overalls I've seen that use this fabric blend were made in China, and thus I wasn't so trusting of it. But I get the customer service like, this isn't our if it isn't in our fact section, we can't help you. Have a nice day response. So really, there's some sky high marketing companies out there. The towers are so tall. Like one example I've seen is there's an instrument company, and it rhymes with Dibson. So basically, like a holier than thou approach, or we're not going to respond to the customer based on my suggestion. So once again, I wish both of these companies made a pair of overalls using the blends, you know, like a 9 or 10 ounce version of it, especially if it used the wider fits. Like the 874 I feel like would look more classy, but specifically if they used like the shop pant, the double knee loose pant that Dickie has would be a cool, either or would make a great overall. I'll also say I typically hate pants just because they're not loose enough. And if they are, they're like ridiculous, like 2000s, like, black pair with the chain loose. Or the rise is too low, so they're sort of the saggy, loose type of pant. But I've actually previously even used a pair of a kilt that was it was a polyviscose blend, so it used polyester and viscose as the blend. So it's once again you have another using that same fabric blend, and it worked better than something that you would see like in a 100% wool kilt, because you don't care as much if the pair dies or you go bushwhacking and blackberry rips it in half. So plus because it's twill, it's less likely to, and twill's typically like a thicker knit than canvas. So unless you're getting a very thick canvas, you're less likely to get something that sticks in there and then tears the whole thing out. So that's another reason I like the twill, because it's like a two. It works well for like if you're wearing two layers, kind of like I mentioned. If you're wearing like leggings underneath, you can wear the twill on the outside. It'll block a bit more than the wind than the leggings might, and then thus you have a two-layer, like a durable outside that's blocking the wind, etc. So once again, I think it's like a winning combination. I do the only natural fiber in the future that I think could really contrast this and be cheap is hemp, because hemp is like it's a very long strand and it's very durable. I don't know if you've seen one of those pictures of all the uses that you can do with hemp, but like apparently a car was made about 100 years ago using hemp concrete or hemp steel. I'm not even sure. There is hemp concrete that's been proposed. I know companies have been using hemp more often, but the problem with hemp is typically it's like comes from China or Romania or Eastern Europe, and so it doesn't get the same. It doesn't have the same industry that cotton necessarily does. So it'd be really cool to see like a polyester hemp blend for its durability, or even more 100% hemp clothes out there. Because most of the hemp clothes I've seen from like Patagonia, Patagucci, or other companies, Dash Hemp is another one that is not like, I don't know, most when you see a new industry, again, sticking to what works, when you see a new industry, you typically get what should I say? You typically get a lot of experimental clothes. I don't want to knock down Etsy, but you see a lot of experimental clothes on Etsy that aren't really ergonomically designed or have the best thoughts in mind in terms of design, because they don't have the experience to see what works. So you don't really have the design out there for hemp, and you don't necessarily have hemp adopted in terms of manufacturers consistently using it. The only hemp places I've seen have been like in Kentucky, until it's been sort of legalized for the past 10 years. And now you can't get high off hemp. But once again, I feel like for a cheap price, and hemp would be the only thing that could necessarily contrast a good blend like this at the moment, and without just going like to a full synthetic or a very heavy, like 100% cotton 15-ounce pair of jeans or canvas, which still has their own problems with weight and flexibility and break-in, etc. So, yep, that's just what I like with these trousers. Let's jump to the website here. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. So both of them have a warranty. The Dickies, I forgot where it was, but basically there's a satisfaction guarantee that you're going to get with Red Kap. When a job's done right, you stand behind it. That's why our uniforms are backed with the done right guarantee. If you're unhappy with the purchase from Red Kap, just return it and we'll refund the money. It's that simple. So you get a pretty good Red Kap guarantee there. It's one reason I have a preference for them, or the underdog for them, because it's pretty. Even with a lifetime warranty, they can say, well, the lifetime of our product is 1 day. So if it's past that, you're screwed. The Dickies is a little bit more clinical. It's more like, all right, where are you? It's more, you have to return the receipt. I'm sure Dickies is a little bit more flexible than that, just because, what's the right word? Because I've seen them respond to reviews enough to say, Yeah, and you can say that's just customer service, but I've seen them respond more responsive to reviews saying, "Well, just return the product because you had one leg that was like 3 inches shorter than the others, and you look like Huckleberry Finn." So, but Dickies, they want you to show the receipt and a little bit um, more like a product um, think to what their returns are. So. If you're not satisfied for any reason, we will gladly replace or refund the money. So I think you could say by extension they're both satisfaction guarantees, but you have a little bit more there with showing the dated receipt to the product. I don't think that's to the Dickies boot.